to revenge with Lyra.
My parents said they couldn't waste money on 2 educations, so my sister got the college fund. They told everyone I'd run away in shame. My name is Ava Monroe. I'm 26. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. I remember that night. The living room heavy with the smell of burnt coffee and disappointment. Dad's voice was calm, rehearsed, almost businesslike. You'll find your way, Ava. You're independent. Mom nodded without looking at me. You were never academic like Lila. Let's be practical. Practical. That word became my ghost. While Lila toured campuses and posted acceptance letters, I packed boxes in silence. I wasn't angry, not yet. Just hollow. When Mom told the neighbors I'd left to find myself, what she meant was that I'd left to make money no one else believed I could earn. For 2 years, I vanished, working double shifts in Austin, sleeping in a cramped studio above a laundromat. I stocked grocery shelves at dawn and coded websites at midnight. Every paycheck went into one account. I didn't buy new shoes. I didn't take vacations. I didn't tell them where I was. Because one day, I planned to come back, not for approval but for closure. Last week, I finally did. I walked through the same front door they once locked behind me. Mom froze mid-conversation. Dad's fork clattered against his plate. My sister's laughter died in her throat. Look who decided to return, Dad said, forcing a smile. Just passing through, I replied, pulling an envelope from my bag, the same kind they used to send bills in. I set it on the table between us. Mom's hand twitched. What's this? The thing you said you couldn't afford, I said softly. Education. When she opened it and saw the university seal, her face drained of color. That's when the screaming began. Mom's scream cracked through the room like glass shattering. Dad pushed his chair back, so hard it scraped the tile. Lila just sat there, staring at me, the golden child frozen mid-spotlight. What is this supposed to mean? Mom snapped, her voice high, brittle. You forged this. I almost laughed. I didn't forge anything, I said. I graduated last month. Full scholarship. Top of my class. She blinked, the denial already softening into panic. Dad reached for the envelope, pulling out the letterhead embossed with the University of Texas. Attached was a copy of my degree, my name printed in bold, undeniable ink. You said you couldn't afford 2 educations, I continued, my tone calm, steady. So, I found a way to afford my own. Lila looked between us, her face pale. You went to college without telling anyone? I went to college, I said, without your permission. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the faint ticking of the kitchen clock, the same one that used to mark curfew, lectures, and expectations I could never meet. Then Mom's face twisted. You think this makes you better than us? You think this little performance erases the shame you caused? Shame? I repeated quietly. You told people I ran away. You called relatives to pray for my lost daughter. You made my absence your excuse. I was your scapegoat for everything that went wrong. Dad slammed his fist on the table. Watch your tone. I met his eyes. I did. For 24 years. He flinched the smallest recoil, but I saw it. The truth had landed. I took the envelope back, sliding the papers inside. I didn't come here to argue, I said. I came here to return what was yours, your narrative. You don't get to owe me anymore. As I walked toward the door, Lila whispered, Ava, wait. But I didn't. I stepped into the night air, heart pounding, the house behind me buzzing with panic. I knew this wasn't over, because for people like them, losing control always feels like betrayal. I didn't make it halfway down the driveway before my phone started buzzing. First Mom, then Dad, then Lila. Over and over, the same cycle of guilt, outrage, and confusion. I turned the phone off, tossed into my passenger seat, and just drove. 2 years of silence had taught me that distance was my only defense. But that night, I didn't drive to escape. I drove to remember the girl I used to be, the one who used to believe approval could be earned through obedience. I ended up at the diner where I'd worked my first job. Same neon sign, same crooked blinds, same stale coffee smell. The waitress, Marlene, recognized me instantly. "Well, if it isn't the runaway scholar," she said, smiling. "Guess I finally proved them wrong," I said. She poured me a coffee. "Honey, you didn't have to prove them wrong. You just had to prove you could survive without their apology." Her words sat with me long after she walked away. When I got back to my motel, I turned my phone on again, out of curiosity more than weakness. There were 12 missed calls and one voice message. It was Dad. "Ava, your mother's losing it. You embarrassed us tonight. Lila's crying. You had no right to show up like that, flaunting whatever you've done. You think money and degrees make you better? You'll regret this." I replayed it twice, not because it hurt, but because it sounded exactly the same as it always had. Control disguised as concern. I opened my laptop and logged into my university email. My next move had already been drafted weeks ago, a transfer confirmation for a teaching position in Seattle. A new start, far from the Monroe family rumor mill. But as I stared at the document, something inside me shifted. They still controlled the narrative. Runaway, selfish, ungrateful. I'd spent years disproving them. Now I was done reacting. It was time to rewrite. Because revenge, I realized, wasn't confrontation. It was evolution, and they'd never see it coming. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight spilling through the motel curtains and 3 new voicemails, all from Lila. "Ava, please answer. Mom's losing it. They told everyone you forged that degree. You need to stop whatever you're doing before Dad calls the family lawyer." The same lawyer who once helped them drain my college savings. Fitting. I didn't reply. Instead, I drove to the post office and mailed 3 thick envelopes, one to my old high school principal, one to my dad's workplace, and one to our extended family group address. Inside, certified copies of my degree and scholarship letters. No message. No caption. Just truth with postage. By afternoon, my phone lit up again, this time, from numbers I hadn't saved. A few old neighbors, even a distant cousin. Messages flooded in. "Proud of you, Ava. Heard the truth. They should be ashamed. Never believed you ran away." Each one felt like a small exhale, a weight shifting off my shoulders. That evening, as I sat outside the motel eating takeout, my phone rang again, and against my better judgment, I answered. Lila's voice trembled through the speaker. "They're furious. Dad said you humiliated them in front of everyone. Mom's threatening to disown you." I almost laughed. "You can't disown what you already abandoned." Lila sighed. "You're not the only one they hurt, you know." That stopped me. For a moment, her tone cracked, genuine, tired. "I know," I said softly, "but you chose to stay." "I didn't have a choice," she whispered. I paused. "You always have a choice, Lila. You just have to stop living on borrowed courage." Before she could answer, Mom's voice shouted in the background, furious. The line went dead. I set the phone down, heart pounding, not from fear but from something sharper, clarity. They wanted shame. I gave them evidence. They wanted silence. I gave them truth. And somewhere deep down, I knew this war wasn't about money anymore, it was about control. And control finally was mine. 3 days later, my story had spread farther than I'd imagined. The same relatives who once whispered about my disappearance were now flooding my inbox with apologies, support, and stunned disbelief. It was surreal, the same mouths that once condemned me now calling me brave. But not everyone stayed silent. Mom took to Facebook, her favorite stage, posting a photo of the old family house with a caption that read, "It's heartbreaking when a child forgets where they came from. We sacrificed everything for her, and this is how she thanks us." Hundreds of sympathy comments followed. And yet, under all the dramatics, there was one tiny detail that gave her away. The date she claimed she'd paid my tuition. It was the same month I'd been working night shifts at the diner. I didn't respond publicly, but I did something better. I emailed every local news contact who'd once featured Lila's scholarship story and attached documentation of my own. The acceptance letter, the scholarship announcement, the graduation photo they'd never seen. By evening, a local online paper had posted a small headline. Local student overcomes family abandonment. Graduates top of class after being denied education fund. No names, no direct callouts, but everyone in town knew exactly who it was about. The article went viral overnight. The next morning, I woke up to 47 unread messages. The first one was from Lila. "They're losing it, Ava." Mom's crying, Dad's threatening to sue the paper. "But everyone knows it's true. You didn't have to go that far." I texted back one line. "You can't sue the truth." Then I put my phone down and smiled, not out of spite, but relief. Because for the first time in my life, they couldn't twist my story. The world had already heard it straight from me. And in that moment, I realized something simple but liberating. I didn't need revenge. I'd already rewritten the ending. By the end of the week, everything had unraveled for them. The article had spread beyond our town, shared, reposted, quoted. Former teachers messaged me. Old neighbors called my parents out in the comments. Their shiny image of sacrifice and morality cracked in public view, and there was nothing they could do to patch it. Lila texted again late one night. "They're talking about moving. Mom can't handle the humiliation." I typed back slowly. "She handled humiliating me just fine." Then I set the phone aside. For once, I didn't second-guess the words that left my hands. The next morning, my dad called. His voice was quiet, almost unrecognizable. "You made your point," he said. "You've proven whatever you needed to prove. Enough is enough." "Enough," I repeated softly. "You called me a disgrace to protect your pride. You let people pity you for a lie. I'm not doing this for revenge, Dad. I'm doing it so no other daughter grows up thinking she's less because you said so." He didn't respond right away. I could hear him breathing, maybe crying, maybe just realizing too late that the silence he'd built between us was now permanent. Finally, he said, "You're just like me. Stubborn." I smiled faintly. "No, Dad. I'm like the version of you that never got to exist. The one who didn't keep quiet." When the call ended, I felt the shift. The final break. The cord that tied me to their approval finally snapped clean. That night, I sat by the motel window, watching the reflection of my laptop screen against the glass, my own face looking back at me. I wasn't the discarded daughter anymore. I wasn't even the runaway. I was a woman who had built a life from the ground up and made them watch it stand. For the first time, I didn't feel like I'd lost a family. I felt like I'd outgrown one. And that realization didn't hurt. It healed. The following weekend, I packed up the last of my things from the motel and moved into a small apartment near the university where I'd accepted my new teaching role. Fresh paint, empty walls, and the kind of quiet that doesn't ache. It felt like breathing after years underwater. On my first morning there, I woke up early, opened the blinds, and watched sunlight spill across the floor. For once, I didn't need to brace for a call, an accusation, or a guilt trip. My peace didn't require permission anymore. Then came an envelope in the mail. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting immediately. My mother's. Inside was a single letter. "Ava, you've embarrassed this family more than you'll ever understand. Your father barely speaks to anyone. Lila cries every day. We don't know what kind of person you've become, but we raised you better than this. You've made your point, congratulations. I hope it keeps you warm at night.
Mom."
I read it twice, feeling nothing. Not rage, not sadness. Just the steady confirmation that I'd made the right choice. I folded the letter and placed it in a folder labeled Evidence of Freedom. Then I sat down at my desk and began writing my own letter. Not to her, but to me. "Dear Ava, you didn't ruin the family. You revealed it. They called it betrayal because honesty sounds like rebellion when people live off your silence. You built something real, yourself. Keep choosing truth, even when it costs applause."
"Ava."
I tucked it into my journal. It wasn't revenge anymore. It was release. That night, Lila called. For the first time, she didn't sound angry, just lost. "I think I want to leave too," she whispered. "Then leave," I said softly. "There's life beyond their control. You just have to be brave enough to pay the price." She cried. I didn't. Because I finally understood. Every generation needs someone who breaks the cycle. This time it was me. 2 months later, the world had grown quiet again. Not empty, just peaceful. My new apartment smelled like coffee and books, not tension. My mailbox held bills, not guilt. My days were full of lectures, laughter, and students who reminded me what learning used to feel like before shame became a price tag. Lila called every few weeks now, small steps, soft words. She'd finally applied for an internship out of state. I don't know how to start over, she told me one night. You already did, I said. The moment you stopped apologizing for wanting more. As for my parents, they'd gone silent. Their Facebook pages, once loud with humble brags, now sat untouched. The last post from Mom was months old, a photo of her garden with a caption, "Some roots grow back, some don't." It didn't hurt to see it. It didn't make me angry. It just made me done. One Saturday afternoon, while cleaning, I found the original envelope I'd handed them, the one that had started it all. The edges were bent, a faint stain of my mother's perfume still lingering. I opened it and traced the embossed seal of my degree. For the first time, I realized it wasn't proof for them, it was proof for me. That I'd survived what they said would destroy me. I slid the letter back inside, sealed it again, and tucked it into a shadow box on my desk. Above it, I pinned a single note card that read, *, run away in shame, their story. Came back in strength, mine. That night, I stepped onto my balcony, wind brushing against my hair, the city humming below. Somewhere far away, my parents still lived in the story they built, but I didn't. I raised my coffee mug toward the skyline and whispered, "Here's to the girl they counted out." Then, with a small smile, I added, "And to the woman who never needed them to count her in." The stars flickered like applause. I took a slow